being. But, alright, let's not dilly-dally too much. How can we help you today?
So I have some goals.
Yes, I like those.
First and most important is building Legion. As you probably saw on the preview, and it's down at the bottom if you scroll. My current Legion is 2400, I believe, or right around there. Planning to build that up to 4K by 6 months from now, half a year, and then 4K or 6K, sorry, by the end of the year. And then secondary goal is move the Ice Lightning into, like, I feel like I'm strong enough stat-wise, but then I know you've also said in the past, like, stat isn't necessarily, like, a strength measurement, but regardless...
Well, it's one of them, kind of, you know. It's not, like, the be-all, end-all, but it's,
But, like,
one of them.
Plan to move it into some of the, I guess, arcane bosses, is that what they're called? Normal Lucid, Normal Will, and possibly Gloom as well.
So far you've done everything up until those?
I've done a few practice runs on Will and Lucid. I actually did get carried once through, I think it was Normal Lucid, and I got like 3 butterfly droplets. So that's there, and I died out in a Gloom run. But,
okay. Limited experience, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay. I think if you get 3, I think it has to be hard, right, guys? Can you get 3 from normal? I thought 3 was from
like
hard Lucid.
Yeah, 3 is from H Lucid and 2 is from normal, but I don't even know. So
maybe you did 2 runs, or maybe you did an easy somewhere.
Easy and doesn't easy just drop like 1, and it's like not
at
worth,
best,
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some people were running easy Lucid on extra characters during like the bean event, for example, right? So you can get like the black bean clear for easy and for normal in the same week if you can't do hard yet.
Yeah, that's why I like on my alt or my Phantom I ran easy Cygnus just for the extra beans, even though I could do normal. Like, why not get the extra 5?
Yeah. Easy doesn't drop any? Oh, rip. I know it can
Big
drop
rip.
soul shards sometimes, but also very bad rate. Okay. So
yeah, I don't know where you want to start first, but wherever you want to go is I'm all for it. So
well, yeah. So given the goals, I guess one is like checking how reasonable they are, and then second is like taking them into account. Let's see how we can plan everything else. So when I hear those goals, especially when it comes to like the Legion amount, that seems to come from a perspective of you not playing all that much. Like not 6 hour a day, Andy, just going hand every single day. I have
about 4 to 5 and like 6 at the latest hours in a day to commit.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of like SMART goals. I don't know if you know like what those are. Yeah, like basically like have something that's like specific, measurable, and like also like practical, right? Like don't shoot necessarily for the moon, but like, you know, start small and then build your way up from there.
Yeah. Well, it also depends on how you want to do the approach purely from an efficiency standpoint and from a fun standpoint. Because, you know, we have like the extreme growth potions now, right? And you have, at least when I look at the Legion levels, if those pages are like the pages, if you have 200s and then you have the Lara at 185 and then the next highest level character is a level 80, you're kind of missing targets to use those storm growth potions on right now, right? Or the extreme growth potions on, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So that would be one of the things, is like getting up some level 140s so you can get those levels. Because if you're looking at the Legion from like the efficiency lens, I think you can easily get to 6k by the summer by maybe spending like an hour a day on Legion.
Would you believe it if I told you that like all those level 70 characters were made in the past week?
Well, that's
like,
the approach, honestly.
I am so neglectful on Legion, but I want to improve on like building it, so...
Yeah, so the advice I would give, because the main thing is that you just have power in numbers in the beginning, right? So you want to have some 140s. That's going to take a little bit more. Ideally, you already have a few of those, but that's going to take a little bit more precedent. So But like the main advice I would give people is just like create an extra character a day and get it to 70, and that's just all you do for Legion in one day until you get some level 100s, right? But you could just make a whole Legion of level 70s. You have 26 more slots. 26 times 70 is 1,820. You're already past 4K at that point.
Really? I guess so. Yeah. If you do the math.
Because if you make one a day, then in a month you're at 4.2K. By just making new characters and making one level 70 a day, that's it. If you add on top of that, getting a few 100s for Zakum, getting a few 140s so you can use the bonk potions on them, and those ending up at like 180 because of the extreme growth, right? Then you're already looking at 4.5 to 5K, and then it just comes down to getting all the 70s to 100, and then you're probably already at 6K at that point because of the amount of 200 pluses that you have.
Okay.
So it's just all about, and once you get all of those level 70s going, that's all those level 1 link skills are going to start kicking in, right? You're going to get to the higher level tier of the Legion, which means you also get to expand away from the middle of the grid and into the sides with the critical rate and the critical damage. That's going to make every character that you're training way stronger, need less funding, and be able to kill much faster. Which means they get to 100 faster, and then once you're at 100, you could just kill Zakum for like a week on them, and then you're not busy killing, making new characters anymore. It's just gonna be like log in on 5 characters, kill Zakum, and log out, and or 15, however many you want to do, and it's just gonna be every single day like 5 to 6 free Legion levels, just raking in the numbers, and like 6K is gonna feel like it's nothing. Then if you want to go from 6 to 8, that's gonna be like a way bigger commitment, right?
Right, yeah.
But 6K is just power in numbers, because just think about it. If every single slot that you don't have yet is a level 140 in there, then that's double the amount that we just talked about. And the level 80s that you have now is just a 140. The whole Legion 140, if you have 40 140s, is 5.6, right? Then you only need 400 levels above that. But you already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 level 200s. So that's already more than that extra. So if the lower levels get to 140 and everything else get to 140, you're probably already at like 6.5K. And that's
nice.
That's recently, and you have already a solid foundation because you already have some good links going. You have like the Phantom, you've got the critical rate, right? The Marksman, the Mercedes, you've got all of those already. Demon Avenger, you've already got some really solid links going. Were you thinking of maybe using the potions to get the Evan to like 210 for that? For that skill?
How'd you know?
Yeah. Well, because it's in full Pencilier with a poisonic weapon, so that's a extreme growth character if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, definitely unlocking more of that grid is gonna like be such a step forward. What else was I gonna say? Oh, well, we can talk about it later. Actually, I won't even mention now because I'll just like diverge onto it like for the rest of the time being. But
yeah, sure, we can keep it in like the pocket of Legion, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so bonking the Evan to 210 is gonna be nice for that link. I feel like one of the things that I focus on too much is just like going so hard on the Ice Lightning because I don't know, it's my main. I love it, And part of that has like it's put me in a mindset of like, oh well, I'll just like put 110% into like making this character stronger, but it's like I'm completely neglecting like Legion, which is also going to improve not just that character but every other character I ever want to play in the future. So
and it's going to make your main character stronger. You're going to get to the point where your main is basically just relegated to totems and weekly bosses, and then then there's still some time left, And if like an hour a day of that goes into Legion, then like within a month you're 6K, honestly.
Yeah. Like I kept pushing to 250 because I was like, man, I really want that. It's gonna be such like a awesome milestone. It's like everybody's like first milestone. But then it's like, all right, but what does that do for me really? Because it's just a number. Like you could be 235 just going into a Sphera and could be just as strong stat wise with a bigger Legion in comparison to like my character,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, it does come down to where you want to spend your time, because some people just absolutely hate playing any other character, and they're only just doing like mega burns, terror burns, and then level up potion stuff, and that's like all they can stomach, and then everything else just goes into their main. That is possible that that's more efficient for them, because yeah, I'm not going to set you up to be like, oh, you hate torture yourself with this content, you know, because that makes you hate the game and not want to log in and not want to play it anymore. Then that's obviously counterproductive. So
yeah, it also devalues your sense of like how far you can go, because all you ever known is like Terra burning levels, and it's like,
yeah, anything beyond that will feel like, oh my god, this character can't kill
I got
anything.
One level up. This sucks. I'm leaving.
Yeah, for the long term, you want to instill some, and in another sense, you know, even if you're still training your main, you can still make decent gains, but logging into another character and getting like 60 levels in an hour, and then seeing the Legion level actually go up by 60 versus spending 60 hours on your main to get 2 levels instead, like that's, you know,
I know,
or maybe not exactly that much, but you know.
Yeah, I jumped 300 levels on Legion in like the course of a week, and I was like, holy crap.
Yep.
That's like, I mean, it's not big, but it's like better than sitting at the same number by like totem training or whatever.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just saying like slow and steady, and find like a little bit of a balance between the two. I would never go like 100% main, but I would also never go 100% Legion, but that's just my personal preference. Some people are like, I just 100% main, and then if there's a big Legion or like an, you know, extreme growth potion event like this one, like I'll just go way overboard on the Legion, and then I'll get so burned out on Legion I don't want to touch it again for the next 6 months until Terrorburn come back. I feel like that's maybe a little bit of an unhealthy balance of things, so I like to advocate for a little bit more. Just do like a little bit of Legion every day. Like if you're at this stage, I would say 1 new character a day, get it to 70. If you feel like doing more, do more. If you don't feel like doing more, you definitely did your part. And then if the next day you don't feel like making a new character, hopefully if you build up a few level 100s or something, you just do a few Zakum runs on those, and it'll just be, it'll just rain levels. And the main thing I would say is like at 3k you get to put 5 extra characters on the board, and you get the extra grid expansion as well. That's when I would really redo the pieces and make sure that you specifically use the middle just to connect the outsides, and mainly go into critical rate and critical damage, because every new character, you know, maybe not just however much you need for the Ice Lightning, right? But like as a second page specifically for training characters and training the Legion, if you get your critical rate up and you get your critical damage up, every new character is just going to start hitting like a truck. And it'll just mean that you get less and less resistance. Every single area that you're training in, all the monsters are just going to die faster, and that's going to give you more experience than anything else can, because the main problem you have right now is that you can't rely on your Legion coins for to invest into your characters. You have to invest them into your Legion grid to grow, right? So you're probably at a pretty big disadvantage when it comes to experience coupons. So to optimize your experience within your time is just killing faster, basically.
Like experience coupons from the Legion shop, or?
Well, that's one of the major sources. Yeah, that's not for everyone. So, to kind of fill in that gap, And the other thing would be Monster Park potions, right? To kind of boost them up.
Yeah, like that's Monster Park potions. Like gold potions, like are sitting in my vault, like you know, for any character that needs them. And yeah, like pretty much the only thing I buy from the Legion shop is the level 3 wealth. Because right now I'm farming for 5, 10, 15 coming up in like a month from now. Or less than that, actually. What is it, like for 2 weeks, right? It's March 6th.
March 6th, yeah. 2 weekends from now, Yeah, today's the 1+1. I don't know if you had anything planned for that.
I might like level up some things on the additional characters. I mean, Star Force, the like equipment on the additional characters, just because it's like 30% off, but... Or no, it's not 30%. It's 1 extra level, like you just said.
Yeah, so if you can get... if there's some stuff on there that's not 12 yet, it's... I would usually would only advise it on people's characters that are level 200 or higher. Because until that point, I wouldn't spend money on the Star Forcing on the equips. I would just focus on getting the actual equips to Star Force and just getting the 200 first. That's way more... efficient when it comes to increasing your raid power, right? Like you can see the difference between the Lara and the Blaster, for example.
Attack on Poisonic Wand and Pencilier.
Yeah, so that one probably has shit Star Force, and the Lara probably has better Star Force, but just those 15 levels make the Evan still way more efficient in raid power. So that kind of goes to show where some people will spend like too quickly, will start like throwing billions on Star Force on all of their characters in their account. And I feel like that if that helps you get enough funding to get them to 200 eventually, then that'll pay off again. But if those characters are just going to be stuck there for the Legion, it's probably a better idea to just get those extra levels on it first and then capitalize on a 1+1 later.
Yeah, because it's like, why did you bother to Star Force it if the character's still just going to sit there?
Yeah, the efficiency from your money for your raid power is not quite going to be there. It'd make more sense to just build your grid up and then just equip another character in, right? That would give you way more efficiency than making one character like 10% stronger. Get some level 60 and 70 characters on your board, or in your Legion, and then you can put one more character in. Then you're doubling essentially the raid power. It's way more efficient. So if you have some characters with some accessories and equips and all, and they're not 12 yet, that'd be very cheap to bump that a little bit. But yeah, that's just formalities at this point.
Something I want to ask you about, and I feel like I know the answer you're gonna give me, but that's okay. Not like it's bad or anything, but like some characters that might be good for Legion are like, well, I already have the Beast Tamer Luminous, but like getting them up to 210 would be so much more of an improvement. But like possibly getting like a Demon Slayer for like boss damage, or like Shade even for crit rate. Like, are those? I mean, you're probably gonna say yes, those are good options, right? But like, should I prioritize going for those like right out the gate, or should I do other characters? Or like there's Angelic Buster, Kinesis, but I don't know how like necessary they are.
I guess you're pretty bursty now as a Ice Lightning, right?
I'm all right, yeah.
Yeah. Because let's say that I did Project Siri on it. Okay, they're strong.
It's mostly a better like mobber than it is a bosser, but
I think they were good balance, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they are
pretty strong
a little
at
bit
both,
better
I'd say.
Recently, because some of the classes, I forget, I think it was like right before the part 1 burning event we just had, they like revamped some characters, like
the lightning stacks
like
and everything, right?
Yeah, Lightning Orb, its hyperstat got changed from like, it used to be, I think it was like 8 seconds key down ability or something, and now it's like 3.6. But yeah, it does more damage, so to compensate.
Yeah, you don't have to hold it for as long. Well, and you have more time to use other skills, and if the boss moves around more, it's easier to commit all the damage.
Yeah.
You're not locked in
as long.
as
The funny thing is, like, when I first learned about that skill, I didn't know it was a key down ability, so I just tapped it, and I was like, wow, this ability sucks.
And then you're like, wait, you're not holding it down. You're like, oh, that explains why it's a hyper skill. Okay. And not like a third job tap thing. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you, I think, people were like, wait, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm using Creeping Terror. Like, wait, you can hold that down? Wait, it's an iframe? And then they were like level 2 something, 200 something arc. And because it's a third job skill, and if you just tap it's like a full map clear, that's already really good. But it's also like an up to 5 seconds flexible duration, allows you to move iframe at the same time. So it's like, oh, wait, hang on. Adds a little bit of a new dimension to just everything you're doing with the arc. So
yeah,
sometimes reading skill descriptions is a good idea. A lot of the times it's just weird Korean translations and like filler text that doesn't really help you in your life.
Skill has like a bunch of hashtags in it or pound signs.
Yeah. And sometimes it just looks like all zeros, so you're like, I hope it's working. I hope I didn't forget to lock it. So for Legion, I have this grid, right? So I guess I don't know which of the resources that I have you've already seen.
Yeah, I've taken a look at that. And I think I like know the characters I need to like work on. Like obviously I'm not just gonna go out and make like a shadower. Like that's not going to. It might be fun to play, but it's not gonna improve my Legion. So I think I know the characters I need to.
Well, we're looking now for the levels, right? So any character will basically improve. But I would say the order in which you do them will help you level up the subsequent ones faster. So if you follow this general order, you know, not that you have to do 1, then 2, then 3, but like if you follow this general order, every next character is going to help you push the snowball down the hill, and it's just going to make the next one easier and easier and easier. And then at the same time, you're going to be prepping yourself for the boss ones as well. So once everything gets to 70, then everything gets to 100, then everything gets to 120, everything gets to 140. You'll have that big grid, you'll have all the level 2 links at least, and then from there on out you can see like, okay, the 140s that I want to eventually get to level 3 link, those are going to be maybe priority bonks if I don't like them, you know, get those growth potions on there. If you do get something to 140 and you want to eventually get it to 210, but you don't feel like leveling and there's no other event, maybe you just Terra Burn and remake that character. But at that point, you'll have the whole power of the Legion and all the level 2 links to help that Terra Burn as well, so it's going to be 210 in no time. So it's not going to feel like, you know, because at this point you'll be like, okay, I'm not going to Terra Burn something that I already have at 140. That would make no sense with your current state of your Legion. But once you have like a 6.5k Legion, it'll be like, well, I mean, those 60 levels are going to be faster on a Terra Burn than, or 70 levels are going to be faster on a Terra Burn than on an existing 140 that has no funding. So yeah. then that'll be a good decision, and then you can start deciding like for the level 3 links, right? Because you're specifically talking about things like the Luminous, like the Demon Slayer, like the Angelic Buster, right? Those level 3 links will come into play there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I seriously want, like, even though I have the Luminous already, I'm like, man, this would be a good class to burn, because, I don't know, some people might be able to deal with it, but I don't know why, it was, like, slow and terrible in, like, first and second job, but I guess every class has its pros and cons. I mean, people thought that Marksman was terrible, but I personally, I mean, I Terra Burned it, got it to 220, and I was like, this class isn't half bad, you know, so,
I think if most characters in like a vacuum are not bad at all and can basically do everything. The problem starts seeping in when you play another character that just poisons the well and like, okay, this character is so much better than anything I've ever played at this. Because like, you don't have an Adele yet, right?
I do not.
Yeah, keep that one for last. So,
yeah,
because the sooner you make that one, the more all the other characters are gonna feel like, oh, now I get it. Yeah, I see why they said all these other classes were bad. Yeah, because you just the level of comparison to that is just like, oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
My buddy's like right on par with me level wise for like Kana. He's like, oh, Kana feels so nice to play. And I'm like, yeah, keep telling yourself that.
4 more months of that.
Yeah.
Then you'd be like, oh, totems. Oh no, I have to get reward points now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fall in line with the rest of us. We've been expecting you.
Your days are numbered.
Yes. But so for Legion, I would do it that way to strike a balance. Either one character a day or some leveling on existing characters. Don't neglect that either, right, to get them to the 140 area. Because if you're mainly using the growth potions on already high level characters, the efficiency per potion per level is rather low, right? And if 6k is your eventual goal, you can benefit a lot from just throwing a bunch of characters into the mix, right? Because the top 40 level characters that are at least level 60, their levels will count towards your Legion level. So you've got 26 more characters to scale up on.
Yep.
Even if those are all level 100, then you're looking at 5k already. Like that's how.
Just out of curiosity, where are you pulling that 24 from?
26 more. So you see Legion character on the bottom left. It says 1 out of 14. So see that there's 14 characters whose levels right now are counting towards your total level on the top right.
Oh, okay.
So 26 more characters at least level 60, their levels will also count. Once you're going over 40, then the 41st character would have to have a level that's higher than whoever is ranked 40 at that time for their level to count. But so if that is level 60, and then you make the other character level 61, their level will count instead of the 60s. But at that point, you'll only go up by 1, not by the full 60 anymore, right? Because it'll just replace it instead of going on top. Because some people in the past thought like, oh, I'll just make like 55 characters and get them all to level 140, and then boom, 8k Legion is super easy. And you're still beholden to those only 40 highest level characters in your account.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a chair, I think, that shows all of the levels of all your characters in your account combined. Yeah, this one, which you can make it look like you have an 11.6k Legion, but of course that's not the Legion score. That's just the level of all the characters in the account. Yeah. So that's kind of like cheating. That's not it's not the actual Legion or something, because that would be broken, right? An 11k Legion. Yeah. Although, I mean, it only goes up to 10k, so that extra 1.6 wouldn't even do anything. But yeah, so the main thing would be to especially once you hit 3k, because then you have the bigger grid, way more characters in, is to move into the sides and basically redo your grid layouts, probably for both of your presets, I imagine. And then, we'll look at the stats and everything specifically for the Ice Lightning, but I assume that the IED and the boss damage might come into play.
Yeah, IED and boss damage, actually IED and crit rate, I think, are the two biggest aspects that I need the most of right now.
Yeah, general priority is basically like counterclockwise, like critical rate first, then critical damage, then IED, then boss damage, basically, right?
Okay.
And then we just pick in order of how much you need. You leave that many points behind and then move over to the next one, and if there's anything left. You could make an argument for ignore defense and critical damage being kind of flipped, but that's specifically for the bossing setup, right? If you're mobbing, then critical damage is more important than ignore defense, of course, because of the PDR and everything. Okay. Yeah.
You'll have to go over that with me later, by the way. PDR.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Before we move on,
yes.
One last thing I want to look at. I guess it doesn't really. Well, I mean, it does, but it ties into Legion and Link. Is the Zero character? As you can see, I have one. It exists on my account, but every time I try to commit to playing it, it's basically like MapleStory Lore Edition, right? So you have to go through the chapters and do the what are they, theme dungeons or something?
Yep. A lot of NPC chat holding. Yep.
I just feel burnout after playing it, and I'm like, when am I ever gonna get to the point where I can add this character to my Legion? Because that's really what I want.
I think it's 130 before it counts.
Okay.
Yeah, 130, 160, 180, 200, 250. So at 200 it normalizes with the other ones, but until that point it's 70 levels extra, 60 extra, 40 extra, and then it equalizes at 200. A lot of people will just do the storylines until they finish chapter 2, and then you can leave the theme dungeons if you want. You can just go into the regular Maple world, and then they'll just level there. You do the regular leveling, get a totem, whatever that you need to do to get through it. And then around 180, when the training tends to slow down, outside you go back into the theme dungeons, because the scaling of the EXP is quite nice, and it's still not super duper fast, but you don't need to upgrade your character, right? You don't need to get a whole lot of funding going, you don't need totems, you don't need to find maps, you just go back through the whole theme dungeon, and then from 180 to 200 is basically free inside there. And then 200 is really, really good, because the Legion piece, I always make this comparison just to visualize it, but just the level 200 piece of the Zero gives as much experience being on your board than if you were to fill out the entire grid box of bonus EXP.
Really?
So the 40, yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah, because that's only 0.25% per grid. And sometimes people will very early on be like, critical rate, critical damage, and the bonus EXP. And I'm at that point, it might even still be more important to just go into the middle of the grid again and get flat attack and main stat to make sure that you kill faster, rather than go into bonus EXP, because even if you put 12 pieces in there, that's going to give you 3% EXP. That doesn't feel... It's probably better to just level the Zero on this and plop that one into the board, and then boom, level 200 pieces also 10%, That's that's a level 10 hyperstat as well. So that's a from equivalent
some people
value.
Are saying just finish chapter 2 basically, but it's level 130.
Is that 130, guys? Once you finish chapter 2, it just has
or 160. I don't know. Or 160 is probably chapter 3. I don't know.
I don't think it maps up on perfectly to those.
Yeah, it doesn't it's not oh, you're level 30 and you're done with chapter 2, because you still have to do the storyline.
It's kind of like you're doing the pre-quest for Silent Crusade. We've probably done that, right? To access Arc.
I have.
Yeah. So it's just at there's just intervals, and at certain times there's oh, you finished the chapter, and it's oh, cool, now I can peace out. And whatever level you are at that point, that doesn't matter. You get to peace out because you met the requirement.
I'm close then, I guess, because I'm like halfway through chapter 2 right now. So.
Yep. Oh, freedom. You see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep. It's almost there.
Almost there, yeah. Anything else for Legion, links, leveling?
No, I don't think so.
Link skill seems...
Links are...
they're still in development, I guess. Yeah.
And Legion is 60, 140, 200, etc.
100 is a step in there as well.
Oh, 100. Okay.
Yeah, 60, 100, 140, 200, 250. And then
yeah,
70,
traditionally
120, 210.
you just like get the character to 140 anyway for the hyper stat unlock, right?
It's usually just for the rank. I think you get it because level 2 Link and level and rank S for Legion, because the next step is to get to 200 or to 210. Like and that's a really big jump. So I think 140 is a good sweet spot, because it's like, okay, you get to 60, oh, but then 10 extra levels I get the Link skill, and then but an extra 30 that are still really fast I can get the Legion grid. Oh, but an extra 20 I get the Link skill again. Oh, but an extra 20 I get the Legion block again. And then it's like an extra 60 I get the Legion. Yeah, I'll stay here. And then the other thing is, if you get 40 level 140s, like I said before, then you get to 5.6k. So as long as you just have a few characters higher level, you're already at 6k Legion as well. And committing, the only real value of going past 6k Legion is if you're going all the way to 8. Like, there's definitely some value of ranking up some characters to 200, but it's like 140 to 200 gives you 1 extra grid space filled, right? Because the piece gets bigger. And then 500 total levels gets you 1 extra character on there. It's really because when you get from 7.5 to 8k, you get that you get another one of those jumps where you get 5 characters instead of 1 extra on the board. And then those will all be level 200, so that you get to put 20 on the board in one go, which is basically half of an outer grid. So it's a combination of all of the little increments, all of the characters getting a little bit more, and then the extra 5 characters at the end that pays off at 8k. That makes it worth to jump from 6 to 8, I would say. Because 6 is really nice, but you get access to a really big board, and you basically have like, like 20 in crit rate, 40 in IED, maybe like 25 in crit damage, and you can barely connect the two, and then like that's it. Like, so all of boss damage is going to be open, and especially if you're maining Ice Lightning Mage, 8k is eventually what you want to get, because you want to probably, maybe you could eventually divest from crit rate, but you want to have crit damage full, ID full, buff duration full, and like as much in boss damage as possible, right? Because of Infinity.
Oh yeah, Infinity, like...
Yeah, so that's why as like an Ice Lightning main, Legion is possibly even more important than other one, if you're, because you want that buff duration to also be as full as possible.
Infinity is such a weird skill that it like forces me to wait outside a boss instance for like a full minute before I go in, because I'm like, I need all that damage, baby.
Yeah, get all that final damage stacked up as high as possible. And with the changes to unstable memory that they're doing, it's going to be even more reliable, hopefully, to get like that second use out of it.
Awesome. All right, so given a year, you believe that like 4K in half a year and then 6 in a full is like doable?
Yeah, it's more than doable.
Just by making the
if you just do the extra characters making, if you dedicate an hour a day in the beginning, it's going to be like 1 character, right, that you make and hopefully get to 70. But after a while, once the Legion board starts rolling and all of those link skills start rolling, an hour a day will mean like either a 140 or it'll be like a Zakum run on like 20 characters, which will end up being like 25 to 30 levels past that point. And if you regularly just do that and don't like super overburn out, I could definitely see you hit 6k by summer.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
Because that's like such a reinforcing like thing to like hear that.
Yeah, it's just steady as she goes, just slow and steady.
Each step at a time, baby steps.
Yep. So I guess since you did mention IED, I guess we should know and update like any questions you have on like systems in the game. We can start with IED if you want.
Yeah, like IED and PDR. Or they may not be like related, or I think they are, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty strongly related, yeah. Because if one didn't exist, you would need the other one, basically. So PDR stands for physical damage reduction. Okay. And there's also MDR, but we don't really have anything that really interacts with that for like magical damage reduction. We have and there's also like elemental defense, which you interact with a little bit as a Ice Lightning Mage, right? You have one of the skills. Basically, all of these ways are just types of armor that bosses have to reduce incoming damage, and why in general bosses don't just take a huge percentage more of damage. They do take more, but that's because of boss damage, right? But it's not like just, oh, damage times 5 or something. It's higher, but it's not quite that much because there's also more defenses at play that are reducing your damage. The PDR is the main one where, based on the percentage of armor that the boss has, it'll require more IED from you, which is basically like armor penetration, to be able to commit your damage to the boss.
Yeah, so it's like kind of like accuracy, sort of, or...
Accuracy historically has meant more about whether you hit at all or fully miss.
Okay.
So this is more like a type of just damage reduction.
Like how much damage you
Yeah, how much of it is going through. Because we basically don't miss anymore unless you're blinded by something or sealed, right? Other than that, you always hit. But there's an upside and a downside to that. The upside is that, oh, I always see a number. But the downside is if you get 100% final damage reduction by one or a combination of all the sources that are at play, you will just hit ones on something, which you might have seen at some point on something. And that's not necessarily when it has like weapon defense or DR going, right? It might actually just only be ones. Because of all the sources of final damage reduction. Like, let's say if you have a new character, you have very low arcane power that goes, that has some final damage reduction. You might be a very low level, which can also have some final damage reduction. And then maybe you don't have enough IED, which can also have some. If you put all of those sources together and they add up to 100% or more, the highest number you can hit is just a 1. And then, yay, I'm having a 100% chance to hit, but you literally cannot kill anything because of that scale down. Like you're basically a perma beginner at that point. Like you're just never going to kill whatever you're hitting because of the orders of magnitude that you're missing. So in the beginning, the bosses have almost no armor, and then they build up to, I believe, is it 80% or something for CRA? I always thought it was 100%, but it's somewhere around there, 80%, 100%. For like the first 3 doors, and that's why those are typically not super hard. You can get your 3 pieces for CRA, and then with the added damage and the IED on the pieces, usually that will hopefully give you enough to do Vellum. In the past, Vellum had 300%, so it was a really big jump from 3 door to Vellum, but Vellum has been reduced down to 200%. And then you have bosses like Helix with 250. And then you have Lotus and Damien, and everything beyond has 300, all the way until Seren. Seren has 390, and then I think Kalos has 350 and 380 or something like that. So mainly what we balance around, and we look at the progression grid to see like how much IED do you need and everything. We're usually looking towards like that. In the beginning, we're much lower because of those easier bosses, but then very quickly we kind of go to, okay, how much IED do we want based on accessibility, based on the opportunity cost of the IED, based on the defense of the bosses, basically. Those are like the 3 major things that say like, okay, this is roughly how much you want for it to make sense, so you can commit enough damage, not sacrifice enough penetration for raw damage to be able to actually push through. Because I'm sure with other video games, you're aware that it's always a balance, right?
Yeah.
Like if you get 100% IED, like, oh, all my damage goes through, but then you might have to sacrifice a whole lot of sources of damage to get that much IED, so then the damage that goes through isn't that good. But if you don't get enough IED and you get a whole lot of damage, but none of it can go through because you don't have any IED, then, you're lost as well. So the extremes are both bad. It's all about finding the middle ground. So that's what the grid tries to kind of point you in the direction of. So the way the calculation actually works is like, let's say that you have 100% defense, and let's say that your IED, let's take nice round numbers, let's say it's 90%. That means that 90% of the armor is just removed, so only 10% is left. And then that percentage that's left, that's a final damage debuff to you. So you lose 10% of your final damage, so you go from 100% to 90%. So you deal 90% of your actual damage will go through to the boss.
Okay.
So that's pretty easy to understand at the beginning. You get like, 1% more, so 1% less final damage goes down, so your damage technically goes up by a little bit more than a percentage, right? Because you go from like 90 to 91, which means that 1% is bigger than 1% of the 90 you had, so it scales favorably. And it scales even better on the higher defense bosses, because so what we scale for usually is 300% bosses. But there you see really the value of IED, because someone who's like, oh, I've got like 89, you know, that's like pretty good, right? It's like close to 90. But someone with 89% who fights a boss with 300% PDR will still have 33% of the damage left, which means 33% final damage reduction. So you're only doing 2/3 of your damage, which means that all of the investments you make, all of the gear, all of the Legion, right? That's only going to be 2/3 efficient.
Okay.
And maybe switching, you know, 1 or 2 lines of things for IED instead would make, you know, lose a little bit of efficiency on those individual pieces, but maybe will make the efficiency of everything you have, instead of just 2/3, to like 80 to 85% efficiency. So you will make it so that all the time you spend investing into your character actually just go through more. Yeah, so let's say you have, like one more mathematical example, I guess. Let's say that you have, so let's say you have 80%, right? You're like, okay, that's really high, that's good, right? And you're fighting a boss that has 300%, so 80% of the 300% is being ignored, which is 240, right? 8 times 3. So you're left with 60%, so you're only dealing 40% of your final damage at that point. You're like, oh, that's not really good. So let's say that you were to find a source of 40%, like in re-rolling your emblem, for example, because it only had like a line of attack and a line of stats. So you're like, okay, I want to get a line of IED on there, and you can actually find a line of 40%. So the way that IED works is it always gives you the percentage of the source. It gives you that percent of how much you're still missing to reach 100%, basically. So if you're at 80 and you add a line of 40, you get 40% of the missing 20. Right, from 100 minus 80, so that's 8%, 40 of 20, so you go from 80 to 88.
Okay.
So if you were to add another 40% line at that point, you get 40% of the 12 that's missing, which would be 4.8, so you go from 88 to 92.8.
Yeah.
So, but if you would go, in this instance, right, he would go from 80 to 88, which would be like, okay, that's a bit better, and it didn't lose that much damage on the emblem. Well, now instead of dealing only 40% of his final damage, now he's ignoring 88% of the 300, which means that there's only 12 times 3, 36 left. So now he's dealing 64% of his final damage. So he went from dealing 40% to 64% of his final damage, which means that he gained like 51% of his, or 52, 51 and a half, whatever, like more than half of his damage of what he was doing before, right?
Yes.
By just adding one line. So there you can quickly see that it can be very efficient at a certain point. But once you get past a certain point, it might not be as efficient anymore, because you have to start sacrificing more and more damage, and that's when the opportunity cost comes in. You know, having to sacrifice a line of 40% boss for 40% IED, in some cases might be a great idea, in some cases might be a horrible idea.
Yeah.
So it's all about the balance and the amount of sources you have access to, and what is a realistic goal to aim for, basically, at the same time, and how expensive it might be, right?
Yeah. I have a bad cubing addiction, because I can visually see the stat change as opposed to like star forcing. I mean, you can see it with star forcing. You just like, you're also disappointed because you chuck your money. But
no chance of boom is basically it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I just like, I've spent so much mesos on like cubing to get, you know, air quote, better lines. I'm like, should I even be doing this? Because I don't think I should be, but I don't know, it's more satisfying. So
yeah, the main thing.
I stopped doing that.
In the beginning, I think it's a level of risk aversiveness, because you're like, okay, you know, let's say that you're starting with like 2 lines of stat on a legendary cape, for example. You have like 23. You can very realistically get back to that point and be like, oh, I can just stick to it. And then the money that you lost, you'll see more as like, you know, that you got a bunch of Hail Marys in to potentially hit like a 27 or a 30 or a 33. And then if it doesn't work out, it's whatever. And then with star forcing, I feel like it feels more like, oh, I lost backups and I lost all the money and I didn't get anywhere. And there was maybe even a risk that I didn't get back to where I already was. It feels like there's more to lose there. But once you get to the point where most of your stuff or all of your stuff is 17 and it's all legendary, at that point there's definitely way more stat to be gained for the same amount of money going in Star Force beyond 17 than there is on trying to min-max your potentials on your existing items. Mainly, like the WSE, right, weapon, secondary, and emblem, has a potential for damage, but also an incredibly high price tag for that. So keeping those like 2 useful lines for quite a long time is definitely the play from a financially efficient standpoint. Other pieces might also get replaced in a not too distant future, and therefore over-investing in them. Well, over-investing is a little bit tautological, but like investing past a certain point would become over-investing very quickly because of their nature of being replaced in not too distant future, and therefore you would rather save that money on spending on them and hold that money for the next upgrade so you can go way harder on that, so you can switch out for it much faster.
I'm kind of like in that spot right now, but let's not like diverge onto that just yet, because I have a few things I want to like talk more about on like stat wise. But go ahead if you have anything else.
Well, you could make like a theoretical list of like, this upgrade will cost this much, this upgrade will cost this much. The main thing is that the more you pool your money and save for a longer period of time, the more realistic it will be that you make those upgrades within that budget, right? Because of standard deviation and because of outliers and that kind of stuff. And the more you spend your money as soon as you get it, the more likely you are to be on average or below average, because there will just have to be a lot more settling going on, because you just don't have as many roles in one distinct session, basically. So, and up until this point, you can kind of keep getting away with it, right? Because percentage-wise, the upgrades you can make are still significant enough. But once you get to a certain point where the upgrades, in order to make an upgrade, it just becomes so expensive, it just becomes more and more and more financially expedient to just hold off until events, give yourself time to find backups in the meantime, and then just push hard on the places where you can get the biggest returns.
Yeah. Okay. You can tell, like, I'm being boosted a little bit by the Hmudo journal, which is nice, but it's like getting a taste for where I'll be later on, because I'm like, hey, I can, like, I just, like, a week ago and yesterday, because, well, I guess it's Sunday now, but, you know, I have the Sunday Monster Park medal, so extra 10% IED right there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wing it. Like, I'll try going for solo Lomian, and I was able to pull it off. I mean, it was a little bit of a lengthy fight for both of them, but I'm like, awesome, you know? I wouldn't be able to do this without Hmudo, but, like, Hungry Mudo Journal, but at some point in the future,
I think if you could do it with, you could probably also do it without, unless it's literally like a 29.5-minute run or something.
No, Lotus was like probably 6 to 8 minutes, and Damien was probably like 10.
Yeah, then you can also do it without 100%.
Oh,
it'll just be a matter of being a little bit more careful, and maybe needing like one extra burst depending on how close you were, right? I think the main deciding factors would be like if you were using your guild skills right now. Like, those are usually, because of, you know, the critical damage being so insanely huge, especially for you, because I see like your base critical damage is a little bit low because you're stacking off of the lightning stacks and free stacks, right? I think there's critical damage coming from that, if I'm not mistaken.
Critical, chain lightning, sorry, brain freeze. Critical damage, oh my god, what are words?
Yeah.
Chain lightning gets an extra 20% crit on it, so yeah.
But it's critical rate?
Oh, sorry, crit rate, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think with your your free stacks, if you use lightning skills and something that has free stacks on it, you consume a free stack, but you get extra critical damage, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Possibly. The only thing I know for sure, I should probably look at more at my character, like read the stats, but
yeah, if you're saying possibly
there,
yeah.
Jupiter Thunder is one of its 5th job, like, I guess it's a burst ability, but...
Yeah, then lightning does more damage, right? When
yeah, the lightning does more damage. Lightning-based attacks do more damage when it's also being affected by Jupiter Thunder, so... Yeah,
and I think because every single lightning attack, even though it does more damage, does consume one of the free stacks, and the free stacks kind of, like, disappear unless you have actively... I think it used to be called Sub-Zero or something. You have like Ice Age, right? Like you have Ice Age on the ground, and you have the summons that can still apply the ice stacks. That's why you want to like keep applying the ice stacks while you're also bursting, because then every single lightning skill will still do a little bit more, right? And I think that's why they added that extra ice aura thing, so that you can keep that summon on the boss, and it'll just be basically by itself constantly replenishing the ice stacks while you're bursting, and that'll help your entire burst commit more damage as well, because every single hit will get that extra critical damage. Because when I'm looking at the stats right now, one of the main things that you could be gaining a lot of damage on would be to increase your critical damage. And that's like a combination of the characters in the Lynx and Legion grid, right? Like the Jet, the Hayato, and the Shade, which I think you all three don't have.
I do not have
Yeah.
those.
So like those three together, even just at 140, that's 9% critical damage between those. And then the Kinesis Link, I don't know if you have a Kinesis.
Nope.
Nope.
It looks fun, but...
Yep. It's pretty interesting, yeah. And then like critical damage from your gloves, I don't know if you have that.
No crit rate or crit damage on gloves.
And then the critical damage in the Legion board. So basically all of the sources that... because critical damage kind of works like final damage, except that it's additive and it only works on crits. But since you have 100% critical rate, you can get a lot of efficiency out of critical damage at this point to increase your overall damage without touching your range at all, right? And that might be one of the things as well to take it back a little bit to what you were talking about, like increasing your range when you're cubing. When you are cubing gloves and you can hit critical damage, your range will go down, but your damage output will go up as long as you have the critical rate by quite a lot. Because if you can add a line of 8% when your base critical damage is only 29, that's a huge chunk of damage increase, because it's going to apply to every single hit, and it's going to increase because your base critical damage is like 30 to 50. So with the extra 29, you're at 59 to 79%. But with an extra 8%, you're taking that to 67% to whatever. So that represents a bigger part of your damage increase than it would, for example, to increase like your damage by 10%. Because that's going onto an additive pile that's already bigger, so that represents a smaller increase than something like the critical damage would. I mean, it probably would even represent more damage than like a 40% damage at this point, because of how small the number is and comparatively how big that line would be. So if you do a little bit of all of that critical damage, even if you make no upgrades on your equips whatsoever, okay? You're just working on your arcane power, maybe your nodes, and you're working on the Legion, and you're getting that critical damage up as that with that, you're already going to see your crit numbers when you're bursting going to go up way up, and things dying way faster. So it's really interconnection of everything, and because critical damage is kind of a hard number to put into the progression grid because it's so different from class to class, right? Because some classes at your position might be like, unironically, when they're bursting, like an archer could be actually at like 180%. So how do I give like a spread of like, this is the number you want to aim for, right? It's really difficult. So that's why I have the Legion grid number on there instead, because if you take the Legion grid number into account and you take the order of the characters into account, then you will have those important ones, and then that will be part of your entire damage. And this could actually be one of the main things where you're like, I'm not really feeling as much in the beginning the Legion increase as damage increase in my main, but once you start increasing those critical damage ones, because you do have the foundation of the critical rate, I think you'll start really feeling it.
All right.
How do we get on this topic? Oh, topic of like cubing and where you spend your money, and then I mentioned that part. Okay. When it comes to the hyper stats, did you use any kind of calculator for that?
No, I didn't. I kind of just like chucked them in.
Chucked them in, yeah. Because at this level, you'll probably be getting some stuff past level 10. That's kind of inevitable past a certain point. But it is always kind of curious to see like a 13 next to a 5 where both stats are relevant. That usually means that there's some inefficiency there, because once you're going like over 11, it's really expensive for an extra level.
Yeah. It's really expensive.
And if you go, take the ID down from 13 to like 11, that probably means that 5 can go to 10 and the other 2 8s can at least go to 9 as well. And all of that combined is probably going to be more efficient. But we'll have to see what sources of IED you've already got. And you got a better idea now of IED, right? And then, I guess one thing I forgot to mention, sorry, about the IED, is that I make a clear distinction between the visual and the functional IED. So yeah. So the visual is what you... Yeah, so visual is just, what you see in your stat window, right? And then I guess you don't have any familiars with ID, right? Otherwise it would be a red number.
I do. I summoned them. I get 2 15%.
Wait, wouldn't it make your ID red in your stat window?
That's what I thought too. Maybe the game didn't load up.
Oh, sometimes it does it. Oh no, wait. I have red now because I think it's from the event buff. But if I summon my familiars, yeah, I don't know.
But the event buff is like always active, so I don't know.
That's really weird that you have a black number
really,
then when you have
really
the event buff. And
you can disable the Mudo thing, but it only disables like Mudo following you.
Yeah, the event buff will still apply. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, so the visual is like how much you see in your stat window, and then the functional is how much you're with like 100% uptime applying to the boss on hit, because you can do buffing of specific skills, for example, through your boost nodes, right?
Yeah.
If you get to level 40, it can give you 20% extra ID on just that skill. Sometimes people's burst skills will just have some extra built-in ID, like 5th job skills is very common. And sometimes you'll have hyper skills that will give certain types of skills or certain specific skills extra IED. And then there's also boss debuffs, which will give all of your attacks that attack the boss IED, but it only is calculated on hit. Like your stat window doesn't know that you're going to be hitting something that's debuffed, right? So your stat window can display that, but with every single hit, it will get used. And the more disparate sources there are, and the more all of the little bits work together, your functional ID could actually become so high that visual-wise, you can definitely be a little bit on the lower side and still be safe with your ID output. And then that will help you make like the small differences being like, well, should I be visually at 93 or is like 91 also okay? That small difference visually, the higher you go, will represent more sources of ID being able to be redistributed, like specifically your hyperstats, and then moving that into damage instead could actually mean that your damage will go up way more because your ID isn't actually as low as you think it is. Now, I'm not like 100% on all of the classes individually, but you know, the main sources that everyone gets access to, specifically if you're Ice Lightning, of course, is your Explorer Mage, right? That's the extra 9% of like a visual, of a functional source, not a visual source. If you get the 3 mages stacked together, it goes up to 9%. And that's 100% uptime. And then, of course, there's the boost nodes. If all of the boost nodes for all the skills are all at least level 40, then you can basically count an extra 20% IED for most of your damage as well, provided that some of your 5th job skills have that as well. It kind of, at that point, it kind of gets into the nitty-gritty of, you know, are all of your skills a certain percentage of your BA, right? And if you're bursting a lot and none of those skills have IED, should you functionally be adding 20%? If your skills that you're using only have like, you know, 20%, but they only deal like 20% of your total damage, wouldn't that be like cheating a little bit there? So then it's always better to kind of like err on the side of caution and go a little bit higher than you might think. But that number, so that functional number, that's the one I have in the grid. So, and there's specific resources to a calculator where you can throw in all the sources yourself. But it's also going to be a matter of either asking other Ice Lightning mages to be like, yo, what kind of sources do we have, like functional sources, or to just go through all of your skills and read and make sure that there's not any extra IED going on. Because there's final damage, there's knockback resistance. On Infinity, there's the extra percentage damage, right, on a 4th job skill. I think the Lightning and the Ice stacks, it does something with critical damage. It might do something with IED, but I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think so.
But
I think that's like the biggest thing that like Ice Lightning suffers from, or like any Explorer Mage suffers from, is that like we just really don't have any like passive IED or crit rate, you know?
Except for Bishop. Bishop's got fuck ton of crit rate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they get to like, I think with just like level 3 hyper stats and nothing else, you get to 100% or something. That's something they definitely don't need. Oh, I just noticed you got that unique 38 buff duration. That's pretty nice.
Oh, yeah. Is that the best it can get to, by the way? Because I think I was reading like a... Okay, yeah.
On unique,
I was reading the IA thing, and I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, so I've got one link to that.
What would be really nice is if I could get a line of crit rate in there, but I don't know.
Yeah, that basically takes the weight off the of a link skill, right? And then hopefully that link skill that you replace it with gives you more damage than the line of invulnerability that you're missing. Yeah, so if you check the second link of the invulnerability command, that brings you to a list of like all the possible outcomes. So there you can see like the rank, the value, and then the chance within the value. This is from Korea, so it's not like 100% confirmed that it works the same for us, but it's pretty likely. So you can see for unique that the highest possible percentage is 38 and the lowest would be 32. But yeah, there's only a 10% chance of this. But of course, if you use a circulator, then it's always the highest number, right? So if you roll it with a circulator, there was no chance of variance. But if you roll it with honor experience, there's always a chance of variance at these rates.
Yeah. How do you get the line to change like tiers, but like lock it so that it stays that tier when I already have a line of legendary and unique, like currently? Is there a way to do that? Because I know there's things like Chaos Circulator, Black Circulator, etc. But if I could just get that third line from, it's rare right now, up to like unique even?
That's just random. Every single reroll will have a certain percentage of randomness to what tier it will be. But we did get in this recent patch the latest upgrade from KMS where it goes to better percentages chance of getting to epic and unique at legendary tier. So as far as we know, with all upcoming changes from KMS have all gone through, and we're at like the best possible time ever to be working on your invulnerability if you want to get something there. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the question would be, do you really value getting anything on the last line, which is pretty low chance?
Probably.
Or would you rather save the honor experience and then commit into a stronger bossing top line that would maybe help you with the bossing later? That would be something that you want to figure out before you want to commit your honor experience, because it is a rather limited resource, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Like, I could probably get 5 rolls out right now and it'd be like, all right, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you'd always wait for a 50% off, right? Yeah, but
Right.
it would be... So I don't know how many it would really be. Maybe like 10 rolls, but yeah, you can blow through that really quickly, yeah. Yeah, so
should I redo anything else on the hyper stats? I probably should, right? I mean, there's no reason why ignore, like, IED should be that high up. Maybe like 11 you were saying, or 10 even, like 10?
Yeah, 10 or 11 is typically where you want to stay for a lot of them. Efficiency-wise, past 10, it goes down a lot. So I think usually it's fine for like the critical rate, critical damage, ignore defense damage, boss damage. For those to all just to kind of move towards 10, and then any leftover goes into arcane power if you need it, but usually into like magic attack or intellect. Any leftover points until those start going like past level 5, 6, then usually you want to start reevaluating. Okay, maybe we need to get something to 11. That's usually, you know, roughly how the hyperstats goes.
Okay.
I'm thinking also the extra source of IED from your Legion grid once that start coming in. Plus, there's always, you know, like you can always use the 0 and the Ho Young link skill as well, just to get a little bit extra there. If your links aren't totally built out yet, that could be a very easy source of extra IED with very low opportunity cost, right? That will give you the opportunity cost of going past 10 on the ignore IED, would give you that little bit of extra on one end will give you a whole lot of points that become available there that you can distribute and get a whole lot of percentage damage for it there instead. Specifically that critical damage, right? That's going to be scaling very well for you.
Yeah, something I think I'm going to do is join one of the Explorer Mage discords that like you have as like a resource in the Discord to like, you know, ask around, get an idea of like where everyone else is at, and
yeah, like specific things like what maps are you training at, or like how are you rotating this map, or at this boss I die to this specific thing in this boss all the time, how do you guys deal with that? And then you'll get like very, very specific class answers. When it comes down to like where do the stats roughly go, I have a pretty good idea of that for all of the classes. But when it comes into the nitty gritty and how further you go into the game, and people can be like, oh no, you like as long as you have like 38 in buff duration or something in your Legion grid, you're like totally fine because of the percentage of the uptime and the scaling of the opening of Gloom. You know, you never go over anyways. Like, okay, that's like, I don't fucking know anything about that, right? So like if people say that, like 100% defer to them. But when it comes to like just purely optimizing within the numbers and stuff, as long as that foundation is good, you'll also be able to experience the game, you know, once all of those worries are like gone, you don't have to be actively thinking about, oh, I hope I'm not fucking all of that up, right? You can be more in the moment, and you can be like, man, if I just had a little bit more buff duration, I could have actually like done like a second part burst here, or maybe I could have used my hyper skill again within that infinity. That would have been really good. And then maybe you can see like, oh, maybe if I just take a little bit of percentage damage away and I put a little bit of buff duration in the Legion board instead, maybe now I can actually increase my damage by way more. And you'll be able to find those things more yourself as long as your foundation is solid. And then you can start tweaking it yourself a little bit. But that could also be a very valuable part where the Discord can come in to be like, hey, look in this direction, or look for this this change.
Okay.
Is there any other system in the game where you feel like you don't know enough of? I guess we haven't really talked about the familiars, but you have some familiar info in here, and the matrix, I guess. Probably not take too long on those because we've got about 25 minutes left. About like familiars, I mean, you got all your badges, so I'm assuming you're way on top of how all of that works and optimizing within that, right?
Yeah, I have the IED badges that you can actually get. I wish you could get like, what is it? It's like the Ludibrium one, but Alishar is like unobtainable. Like the only way you can get it, I think, is with like the suspicious familiar coupon or something. Like,
oh, the booster packs probably, yeah.
Oh, the booster pack, yeah.
Yeah, the familiar is like to give mastery to an existing one, but to any of the ones that you have. But it basically, there's no reason to get it, no. But the booster packs seem to have a pretty decent chance of giving you very rare cards, yeah. And a small chance of epics as well, which can be nice.
Let's briefly go over the ones that I have and talk about familiars, like familiar lines. So, since I've been practicing like Will and, well, I guess it may not be like useful for Lucid, but I know like Vihila, it's necessary to have healing familiars, and not just healing familiars, but ones that actually heal the party. And I don't really have any of those, but I do have like some like healing familiars and. But yeah, like my boss damage. Yeah, I know, right? That's like the best familiar I have. I got lucky with that. But
it's really nice.
I know. But everything else, like, I don't know what is 7% chance to auto steal. What is auto steal?
Auto steal, basically when you attack or kill a monster, it gives you a chance that it drops the item that it would drop when you kill it prematurely. But it can only drop an item prematurely that it was already going to drop when you kill it anyway, so you just get a little bit earlier. So for that part, it doesn't really have any function. The only function it seems to have right now is that there is a chance that it steals some of the mezzo that it was going to drop when it dies as an extra bag, so that you actually increase the amount of money you get when you're training. And it seems like not all skills trigger auto steal though, so it's not like efficient on everything. So the numbers that you might hear about like how efficient it is a little bit all over the place. But what basically comes down to if you have your drop rate maxed, you're not really actively making familiars, or you're in an area where you can't make, and you are killing everything as fast as you can, and there's no really way to min-max that anymore, then adding auto steal is like the only way you can kind of still get a little bit of extra gains, basically.
Okay. So I know there's a difference between continually restores HP to party members, and then there's nearby allies. What is allies? Like, they have to be like 5 feet away from you, or?
I think in really big maps, it can actually be so that if you're like on opposite sides, it will not trigger you. But whereas if it's party, it'll work on both. Typically, you're close enough for it to work, though. But if you can choose between the two, you choose party members over nearby allies. But either one will be just fine in most situations.
Yeah, the summary of this is that like I have a lot of uniques, but they don't give me anything great.
Yeah,
which
that tends to happen.
Leads me to question: do I just go for epics or?
I think the general consensus is to go for epics until you find a large item drop rate. Because that's 100% by itself, and then that will, just snowball so fucking hard into every single other domain where you need drop rate, which is pretty much all of them, including getting more familiars. And then once you have the large item drop rate, then you go for uniques and try to find those boss damage lines. Because once you make it unique, it's a unique line, and then a small chance for a second unique line, but a guarantee for at least an epic line on a second one. And when you're looking for large drop, boss damage, and large chunks of IED, that efficiency just seems to be there, and until you get that large drop, yeah.
All right. I guess that's everything for familiars then.
Yep. I mean, it's pretty solid at this point. I would say, like, you've got stuff. Large item drop rate would definitely add that up, and then if you can get one more boss and like one more healing, then you have a very, very solid roster of things to switch between. It would be cooler definitely to have one bigger IED if you need that, so you can basically get rid of 2 for the source of 1, and then because like one source of 30% IED is also better than 2 of 15, right? Because of the calculation. Because you're calculating it in one go instead of in 2 separate goes, and then the second one is calculating over a smaller percentage, right?
Oh yeah.
So not only would
it doesn't necessarily add the 15s together.
No, it's calculated as individual sources. In the beginning, when familiars came out, it did add them together, which got them into trouble because people would find like double ID familiars, would find like a 30 and a 35, and then find another one with 30 and then another one with 15, which would make the sum go over 100. And once you're at 100, no matter how much other IED you already have, you always end up at 100. Yeah. So you could just roll out of all the other IED and do everything else full damage, right? And still have true damage on everything. So it was completely busted. So they had to shut that down instantly because it was, that was definitely broken. So that was up for like a week or a little bit less than a week. So people were like, "Wait, do we commit to this? This seems seems unintentional." Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and even
let's take a quick peek at the V Matrix.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't want to like cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Keep us on track.
I also don't want to like buy up your time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do I have too many boost nodes? Can I like put other stuff in?
I'm gonna guess yes. 6 seems like a lot. Let's see. I have !V Matrix where we look at the boost node combinations. Now, one thing I will say is that with the upcoming changes of the explorers, I think if you have ever boost nodes of this level, and you have upcoming possible changes with skills and everything, I wouldn't start disassembling anything. I would just like hold and pause.
Well, one of the biggest mistakes I think I've been making for a while was that I was disassembling nodes to like get node points, whatever they are, node fragments.
Node shards,
node shards to craft more to like, well, primarily it was going into Holy Symbol, but
it's maxed out.
Other stuff, it's maxed out.
Would be cool to also put it in a leveled up slot to get those extra 5 levels.
Yeah, and I do that whenever I like train on Totem or whatever else. But yeah. And I have Urda Nova in there just because Ice Lightning, sadly, Freezing Breath is both its iframe and bind, so it's nice to have Freezing Breath just as an iframe in case shit hits the fan, and then
definitely
Urda Nova as the bind.
Yeah, definitely level up Urda Nova if you get extra Urda Novas, because the cooldown goes down significantly, and with the Explorer change, we saw the new Urda Nova is going to be absolutely broken at max level, something like 100 and... Is it like 100 or 110 second cooldown or something? And it's going to be like an instant AoE thing instead of just like a silly ball that like hopefully floats and hits the target kind of thing. So that's going to become a way bigger skill, and then as a combination iframe with other stuff, and you'll be at the point where you can just like bind phase 2 Lotus, blow it up, and then bind phase 3 Lotus in the same infinity, blow it up immediately as well, kind of thing, right? And that'll give you some nice scaling. Let's see, so for Ice Lightning, I think they have currently, I'm scrolling past it. Oh, it's under Archmage. Derp. Chain Lightning, Frozen Orb, Lightning Orb, and then Blizzard, Alkinus, Thunderstorm, but maybe Ice Strike over Thunderstorm. I think you will take Thunderstorm because of the upcoming changes. But as long as you have those 4, I think you should be absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess because you have those extra level 20s, you hit the 60 on everything, of course. But the downside is that if those extra shards or nodes would have gone into the level, the other level 20s by now, those would have been 25 by now, and you would have also had 60. Because right now you don't have 60, you actually have 75, right?
I don't know. How do I know?
because they're level 20, all of them, and they're all in level 5 slots. So that means that 2 of the 20s that are in level 5 slots, if you take them out of level 5 slots and you put in level 0 slots, they still cap out everything because you're 15 over. So if you put just, you know, other skills in there, you can get 5 free levels upgrade out of those for no discount. But I would definitely look towards figuring out which 4 you can keep, so that they would boost everything that you need, and that you can start committing specifically to those, and have the other 2 just like on the backlog. It would probably be best to look into the patch notes to see how they're going to change. So I'll give you the website of that. I don't know if you can get into the details of figuring all of that stuff out right now.
60 is the cap, though.
Yeah, so 60 is the highest amount of levels you can boost something. So ideally 2 of 25, each in a level 5 slot, 2 times 30, 60, and then you're good. So like a trio, so every single skill that you want to boost will appear in 2 trios, and that's it.
So eventually when I get like 2 trios up to 25, I'll have no need or like necessary need for the other 4.
For the other 2, right? Because 1 trio is basically like 2 sets of 3.
Oh yeah.
So you'll have 4 total to boost everything, and then it might even be the case that in some situations you only need 2 if you can cluster like the bossing skills together, and then you just have 2 boost nodes that completely get it to 60, and then all the other ones can be extra skill nodes. So you can have True Reckon Reflection in there, you can have Speed Infusion in there, you can have Mana Overload in there. You can, is there like another one you're missing? Or you could maybe throw decent combat orders in there for some extra levels and stuff, right? Like all of those things together could all be working to make your burst even stronger. And I think if you would like totally optimize, I think you can get 4 extra bossing nodes in there.
I know some people try to, well, like, I shouldn't say some people, but like some Ice Lightning mages try to use Unreliable Memory as like a way to like cheese out and roll for Infinity when Infinity itself is off cooldown or is on cooldown. But
yeah,
I didn't even know about that until like maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh. But then like also I guess now like with the changes coming soon, they're gonna like revamp Unreliable Memory, so I don't know.
Yeah, they'll probably like at least 4 months away, so I think we're good to.
Oh yeah.
To go in that for a bit, but yeah, like, and that's the other things, like an Archmage Ice Lightning Discord will definitely be on top of like all of those changes and be like, okay, this is because of these things. You might not want to commit to these things yet, and since you have high level nodes where you know you could have some big potential already on your hand to be adapting to the future instead, to minimize your quote-unquote losses that you've already suffered with the extra leveling. That would be something that I would dig into first, specifically with an Ice Lightning, so they can like help you out with that, so you don't have to maybe now fix something that would make sense for now, and then like in 4 months is like, oh shit, if I had waited a little bit, I could have gotten way more gains out of the things that I already made. Where's the boost node? Boost node? Oh, they don't say node. Boost. Fuck, how did I call them again, guys? What's the name for boost node in?
Gem, I think.
Sorry, what did you say?
Maybe. I don't know. Gem? It's like, oh no, that's the name of a node stone. It's like a gemstone.
Yeah, gemstone, yeah.
What?
Core? Oh, they're up here. Okay, cool. Okay, so for Ice Lightning, Glacial Chain cores have been changed to Glacial Wall cores, and Thunderstorm cores have been changed to Thunder Sphere cores, and their prefixes have been changed. That's it?
Oh well.
Okay, so that seems like there's no. Yeah, so it's just both. Yeah, Glacial Chain and Wall are technically new skills, but you don't boost those anyway. And then Storm and Sphere is literally just a rename.
All right.
Okay, recommend these changes here. Okay, so that doesn't seem to be any big problem. So I think it'd be mainly just, and maybe you can confirm in the Ice Lightning Discord, like which 6 skills everyone goes for. And there might be some new ones. Some people might be like, I prefer this skill for this boss, and someone else might be, I prefer this skill for this boss. Maybe on the second trio, but it's like, but both of them will probably agree, like, it's not a huge difference, I just prefer a little bit more. So it's going to be roughly the same trios, and then you find the 4 boost nodes that will service those trios. I'll put the other two. I think it'd be safe to just disassemble the other two.
What? After all that?
Yeah, well, yeah, or you just set them on the bench for a rainy day. That'll be up to you, depending on your risk aversiveness. And then you specifically, I would probably also, like, Decent Advanced Blessing is nice and all, but that's like a 260, 265 core to come in. There's probably a bunch of other skills that can be way more useful, like True Recognition Reflection, both for mobbing and for bossing, will just give you more. Mono Overload will just be way nicer for bossing to give you more damage. And yeah, depending on your level of desire too. But I think Speed Infusion also helps you just with mobbing and bossing to hit the attack speed cap.
Yeah,
or the summon speed cap or whatever it is for mages.
It's like a nice little boost, but it's not major. But that might also be...
Yeah, it's not major. Too. The main thing is going to be for bosses is that you're going to always be able to get out of the way just a little bit faster.
Yeah, for bossing.
Yeah, you'll get caught by fewer things, like with CPAP or something. Just being able to just dash out of the way just a little bit faster might be the difference between actually dying to something that could have been survived quite a bit. Your actual damage output and your like damage per second on like a static target doesn't go up by all that much, but you might be able to commit way more hits because you're getting out of the way and you're safer and you're not dead, and then that ends up increasing your overall damage output.
All right.
Other than that, I don't know 100% what the order is to level up your skills. I guess it would depend on whether you need the most help with mobbing or bossing, but I would assume that mobbing, you're just destroying everything without any kind of trouble. So I guess it'll be mostly the bossing skills. It probably like Jupiter Thunder and your Bolt Barrage, probably. I would guess that those are most important to level up first. Because they will also help your hyper skill hit more, right? And that's where a lot of your damage comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be my advice for the Matrix. But yeah, maybe specifically in Ice Lightning can be like, oh, maybe you can salvage the extra level boost nodes for this or this thing. But if you're like up to 10 or 15 and then you want to start consolidating, that's cool. But if you went all the way up to 20, yeah, that's like maybe there's like a specific situation where someone can salvage some of that. But I imagine that most people will say just find the 4 and then get rid of the other 2. That's what I would imagine. Okay. Especially with the upcoming changes, doesn't seem like it'll change anything functionally there.
Great.
Okay, cool.
And lastly, what are we running on right now? Like,
how much time we have left? Technically, I think we've got 8 minutes here, but I think we can.
Let's go over equips.
Yeah,
because that's like the last thing, pretty much to go over, and then.
Yeah, I think we'll. A lot of stuff will hopefully get a little bit too quicker. Yes. Okay. So specifically.
Last 5, 10, 15 was a complete waste for me because I had no roadmap. I didn't know what I was doing, what I should have upgraded. I spent like $2 bill on getting my Kana's treasure to like 18 star. So I was like, oh, I'll just go 21 star, and I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's how you start, and then reality kicks in. Yeah.
So the Abso is like the first concern. I think it's the glove and. Boot, maybe, I'm not sure, that are like 12 star right now. With the idea of moving into like Lusa and Will soon for like arcane droplets.
Yep.
Should I mean, I probably should bother to go for the 17 star on them, right, just for the extra damage, but is it like not worth since I would be getting arcanes soon, or would I don't know.
So it's a bit different. In the past, it was just like get everything to 17, get like 2 lines legendary, get like an okay flame, and then forget about it and focus on everything else. Since with the changes, you can move like 1 piece at a time now. It might be fine to even have like a few 12-piece arcanes. What it mostly will come, 12-star Absos. What it'll mostly come down to is whether or not you find a party that can already do the bosses and it's okay for everyone, and you just don't need that damage. Because if you don't need the damage for mobbing, and your party doesn't need the damage for bossing, might as well save on it and just hold the money until arcane comes around, right?
Okay.
So it'll come down to that. I don't know if you've done a BA recently. Have you ever done a battle analysis?
No.
Because if you do one of those, and you're quite burst heavy, but if you do one of those, you could do them in the Mulung Fog Forest, whatever the fuck, the new area. And then you can set the requirements, the defense and everything of the boss, so you don't have to do Legion and get the summoning bag for the Scarecrow and all that. You could just summon a dummy and do it on that. So it'd have to be level 230. It would have to have you put low defense. How much is a low defense dummy usually, guys, for a BA? Is it 100? Is it 100%? Is it 150? Oh no, it's 300, but it has no elemental resistance or something, right? The new dummy now has arcane power too. Yeah, but if you start doing that kind of modification, then you'll start comparing apples and oranges when it comes to BAs. 0 defense and no elemental resistance. The values probably need to change. Yeah, they probably need to, but until they do, it's better to keep comparing apples and apples, even though oranges are better. So you want to make it level 230. You want to make it a boss. You want to make it 0 defense and not have elemental resistance, and then summon it. And then you want to have a green pot and just your regular self buffs. And then for 40 seconds, using the battle analysis, try to deal as much damage as possible. And, you know, because of the thing that you said before with the unfamiliarity with the stacks of Ice Lightning, there might also be like a BA video, maybe in the Discord, of people kind of having optimized like what rotation to use to optimize your damage output, right?
Yeah.
And then kind of see like what your BA is there. And since you're pretty burst heavy, you're just doing normal, right? So you're not looking for this value at all yet. But if you want to be able to move into hard lucid, you're probably going to be looking for like 2.5 trillion, I think, for 2.5 to 3 probably, for 40 second. So like if you're anywhere remotely near that, and there's, you know, a bunch of tweaks that we can make before then, right? And then critical damage and all that stuff, and the Legion growth, that's all going to help out. If you're anywhere remotely near that, and then, you know, Infinity, you'll have to optimize that, yada yada yada. Then that means that you can get by with fairly small upgrades, and it doesn't really require you to go spend a whole lot of money just to get those. Because in the grand scheme of things, getting 1 or 2 pieces from 12 to 17 in your entire account is a pretty minor thing, right? Because you have a 17 cape, right? So you can see how strong it's going to get. It's going to be like plus 66 and plus 21. So you're going to be gaining, what is it, 17 attack and 35 stats. That's considerable, but is that like, you know, is that worth it? And then the second thing that comes into play is like, how close are you already to something? Because so you have 3 coins. But since you can buy the droplets, all you really would need is just normal lucid clears for a while. And then if you can immediately switch out the gloves, go for critical damage on the new gloves, get a way better flame, yeah, your range will go down, right, because of the potential. But with the critical damage, your damage would go up a lot. And since you still don't need damage, you still don't need to upgrade the other ones, but you'll be even more solidly in the situation where you want to be.
Okay.
Unless you try to get a weapon, but if you get a drop, that, you know, that will simplify things. But like the weapon will definitely be the biggest upgrade, right? Like the base stats of the weapon are just so crazy that the flames become insane, and then all you need is like an okay pot, and you're just ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be the main thing, is like to establish whether you need an upgrade or not, and then if you don't, you just hold pause champ, you just hold it, and then you just, you know, full send on arcane and have your sights completely on that. If you do need, we can look at which things you can make short and midterm gains on if you do need them, right?
Yeah.
So
but check with like party members or like people who are like, hey, I don't have like full 17 abso. Is that like cool?
Yeah, well that'll be part of the equation. So if they ask for a BA, then it might be a good idea for everyone to just to do a BA and just kind of see where everyone's at. But you're 30k step for like normal loose, it should be absolutely no problem. But making the step from normal to hard, that would be probably where, if the rest of the party can fill in those gaps and you can optimize within your situation, it might be good enough. But there might also be something like, okay, just arcane power and, you know, fixing those boost notes is not going to be good enough. Although the critical damage will help a lot.
Because just from like Smegas, I typically see that people don't ask for a BA for normal.
No,
they just ask for stat.
Yeah, Because if everyone has like 25k stat, it should be a pretty easy run, as long as you don't have an absolute clown there like sabotaging the whole thing. It should be perfectly fine, If you got someone like...
How do you do the boss?
Yeah. Jump into the dragon, you say. Okay, here I go.
Yeah.
What? I thought the green breath would give me super strength. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was a healing flame.
Yeah, that was a healing flame, yeah. But I'm green. It should heal me, yeah. So the short and midterm stuff. So in general, we were like, oh yeah, getting all the 17s, right? Not like getting off kind of treasures to 18, because even though eventually that'll definitely become the thing to do, at this current stage, it's probably like if that money had gone to the Abzos instead and that all went to 17, that would have been a way bigger guaranteed upgrade than just the one extra star on the Kana treasure, right? Because every single, the way you want to think about it is every single star you get on top of an existing item star is going to lose efficiency. The amount of stats you're going to get back for it is always going to be a lower bang for your buck for how much money you have to spend to get it. It's just like with Legion, right? Like every next level is going to be harder to get than the previous level, and it's going to take a little bit more time per level to do. So that's how you want to look at all the upgrades as well. So you're always just looking for the path of least resistance. So getting up to 15, that whether you do that with safeguarding or without, that always is determined by how many backups you have. So you've got like the monocle and the tattoo as well at 12, right? That could be stuff to get to 15, but whether you safeguard or not, that depends on how many dineros you have, and that depends on how much you hate commercy, which for a lot of people is a lot.
It takes like 10 minutes a day. I'm not too miffed about it. By the way, since like we're kind of like talking about that right now, so from the Maple Live event, we got the 17-star scroll, was it? Yeah, so because it was on a time crunch, I was like, oh my god, what do I use this on? I chose to do it on the Pat Mark, because Pat Mark is like a little bit more rare of an item to get. And I transposed a Dominator onto the Sweetwater pendant, but I think that might have been like a mistake or like bad, because like once you do that, you know, that you're pretty much locked in with the flame it has. So is the flame like...
Oh, it's a fine flame. Yeah, it's a fine flame.
It's fine? Okay. Alright. And then, so yeah, I guess I would just wait on getting more dineros to transpose the Pout Mark onto the monocle.
Yeah, the it's a 64 and 6, okay. Because you see the 12 extra on decks, that would be the same number for all. So 46, 12 difference, 76 minus 12, 64 and 6. And also with an extra 16 luck, so that's totally fine. Yeah, that's really
because
that's like really high.
I've seen people
actually.
who have like 100+ flame on a Sweetwater. I'm like, man, that would be nice. Did I make a mistake not getting that? But
yeah, it also it gets exponentially bigger because the flame tries to stay the same tier within the higher tier of items, so the number goes up, but it takes away from the blue number. So you see your blue number is 46, and then for Dex it's 58. So it took those 12 stats away from that, so that the total bonus stats stayed the same. So it made the number bigger, so that way you know that the pre-transposed flame was a 64 and 6, minus those extra 12. So if you see like 110 or something, usually the bonus stats took like 24 away or something, and then at the highest it was probably a 96 pre, which is still incredibly high. But yeah, some people are just going to get insanely lucky, so don't try to, you know, compare to those people. But so that goes into like flame score and stuff, which we don't have enough time to go into all of that. But I do have a video about that, about flames and about flame scores, so you can calculate what you're looking for. So in the same way, like for transposing for the Papulatus mark, ideally you want to transpose a flame score anywhere between 105 and 115. So for comparison, your Sweetwater pen was probably like a 120, so that was like beyond where most people would even consider settling for, so that's really good. And then for a Pap Mark, you know, you aim for like the same amount because they were the Dominator and the Pap Mark are in the same tier. The problem though with using the 17-star scroll is that the ideal amount of Star Force to transpose that is 16. And I don't know if you did your Dominator at 17 as well, or did you do it at 16 and Star Force it back up?
No, the Dominator was 17.
Yeah, it was also 17, yeah. So there's a certain amount of stats that get carried over onto the base item at every single star, and then there's also a certain amount of but you lose stats the higher you are because of
yikers.
Yeah, you lose a little bit as well at the same time because of if you Star Force on a 160 item, you get more bonus stats than if you Star Force on a 140 item, right? So basically, taking all of that into account, the optimal number to transpose at is at 16, which means that if you do it at 17, even though the flame score was really good and really high, because of the loss of efficiency on a Star Force transposing, you actually took a little bit of value off of the flame. Right? Because not as many bonus stats are going to be transferred over.
Alright, so the real play then is to flame the original item first, don't Star Force it at all, transpose, and then Star Force the
No, get it to 16 and then transpose it. Transpose at 16,
yeah, get it to 16
and at a like 105 to 115 flame score. That's the play. So since your Papulatus mark is already 17, you either have to like take the L on that, or get a really good flame and be okay with the settle, or try to Star Force and fail it and hope it doesn't boom to get it down to 16 for the optimization. That I'm gonna leave that decision making up to you. But you're probably gonna lose a little bit of value on the transposing there, so the flame will have to be a little bit better comparatively to make sure that the value goes over. But yeah, depending on how min-maxy that is, you can make that decision, you know? Yeah, and if it works and it goes to 18, then you're in even bigger dookie. I've seen people running around with the 22 pap mark because they got it to 17 and tried to fail it and it actually went all the way up. So, you know, that can happen too.
Bastards.
Yeah. Well, then you just have a very nice drop in meso piece later, because you still want to get another pap mark and transpose it and still, because that'll still end up better because you can get more backups for the monocle more easily, right? So guaranteed you can get up there faster.
Yeah, I'm unlucky with my Gollix ring because it's a drop ring.
I just saw that, yeah.
So do I need to... I pretty much need to like buy another superior ring, right?
If it's double with an all-stat line, I'd probably get another one, yeah. It's too good to get rid of, I would say. Well, the main thing is you could just hold on to this one, and then for the next one, you mainly just work on the project first of getting a Kana Treasure or a Meister all the way up to 21. And then once you get that, then you buy the superior, tap into it, and have a 20 superior. Or 20 to 21 tap already if you want to do that. So you'll just have some more pressure on the other pieces. Primarily, the first stuff you typically tend to get past 17 would be the CRA stuff, right? Because you have the most backups there and you don't need the safeguard. Plus with the trace, you keep the flame. And you've got very nice flames on here and good potential on the pants are really nice. Hat potential is always garbage, so that's whatever. Top potential is pretty garbage. It's just hard to roll something good, so this is good enough, I would say. Flames are pretty good, so that's like the main thing that you want to Star for. So if it does end up right, you need that extra damage. The few things would be that you could work on there for Star Force would be to see if you can get the non-15 stuff up to 15 and then up to 17, right? So that would be the the Sweetwater stuff and the Absolab stuff. And then if even with that it's not quite enough, the first things you'd want to push past 17 would be to the CRA, see if you can get that to like 18 or 19. That's still pretty doable. And then if you would get that to 19, the other stuff to 17, and then maybe the shield, right? That would be like an optional one. But with all of that, it should definitely be enough for the whole party if everyone is at the same point. And then you can just completely foot off the gas and full focus towards arcane stuff.
Because what I usually do is I bring the book for my bossing, and then the shield I just use for like mobbing. But is the shield still a better choice for bossing, even if it doesn't have the plus 30% boss damage?
The main thing is that eventually, because of the Star Force, it gets a lot better because of the extra bonus attack and stat on it. It might be that even if you get it to 20 in its current state, that it's still a little bit worse than the blue book because of the boss damage line. That's probably possible. But that also means that eventually you'll just like mass red cube it to get the same potential as your book. And if you end up not getting it, you can still fall back on the book and not lose a whole lot of damage. So you have a nice fallback there in case, you know, your project doesn't succeed.
Yeah.
Which also means you can, you know, not have to resort to like black cubes or something, which could, you know, give you the results, but on average is way more expensive than to get like the blue book tier potential on black cubes is way more expensive than on red cubes on average. So it's not an ideal situation to have, but you can use it to your benefit to make sure that, you know, you can get to the final result a little bit more cheaply, and then that way it'll almost even out.
All right.
Depending on how much you spend on the book.
Yeah. And I looked at the Pinot book, by the way. It's not well, it's better than Blue Book, but Shield is better.
Yeah, no, Shield. Yeah. The Star Force, just beyond
So with the
Shadow of a Doubt better.
So with the Superior Gollux ring, get a new one with the Gollux coins, and then maybe, or not maybe, but tap a Kana treasure onto it. Or I mean, not tap it onto it, but
eventually,
like,
yeah. So
and then tap the Gollux ring.
yeah, there's a few stages. There's like just the ring. As long as you have the 4 set, then the ring immediately is worth it because of the set bonus. And then the first step after that is usually people get it to 17, legendary, like 1.5, 2 lions, whatever. Then hold on to that. And then the next step is like 21, level 140 ring, probably Kana treasure, maybe a Meister. Tap it into the superior, and then either keep it at 20 if that's good enough for people and work on the potential. Most people try to tap it from 20 to 21 and then work on the potential again, and then you keep that for a long time. Then either you work on 22 or you work on another Kana treasure or Meister into another superior, into the slime ring if you get that. Like there's a whole bunch of other ring work that will happen, right? Because you can go for Kana treasure, you can go for Meister, you can go for reinforced, you can go for the slime. Some people get lucky and get like a terror from Chaos Gloom, whatever. Some people get Oz rings by that point, and then one of the ring slots isn't as important because it's always going to have, or most of the time it's going to have a strong Oz ring in it for your burst. So depending on the type of content you do and the kind of luck you have, there might be a whole bunch of other ring projects that kind of like fill in slots, which means that you don't have to directly spend a whole lot of money there, and that money can actually go towards higher stuff for CRA or for other, especially for the superior stuff like 21 star stuff to tap into, like level 140 stuff, right, into 121 and then transfer over. So since that's on the menu, you don't work too hard on the potential of the current superior. But since your potential of your belt is already at 33, you could also say, I'm just going to wait for backups for the belt, because it also can drop from Helix. And then just when I have at least one backup and during an event, and CRA is already where I want it to be, then I'm just going to try it on the belt itself, so that if it, I think I have, is there a fire truck outside my house? Okay. I think you will have enough, basically because of the RNG of your potential, that means for you, it becomes a low priority. Or a far away priority, right? So, but that also means that you're going to have to get back up, so you're going to be relegated to doing Gollux for longer.
Yeah.
That's like the downside and the upside together with it. But you have like a 22 star, 33% to look forward to at some point, which is, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you mentioned the Angel Slime Ring and like Mice Ring. That's something I really wanted to go over too, but like we're kind of like out of
we're a
now,
little bit over time. Yeah,
like accessory crafting is just a whole separate topic. Is like something I really need to get into because I'm at 10 now, but I really want to make the jump to Meister, and I know that well, you have to make the jump to Master Craftsman first, right, and then Meister. But if you don't actively train it and keep it up, then it downgrades. it like decays.
Yeah, anything past 10 can decay, but it takes up to, I think it's like 18 hours before it starts, or 17 hours before it starts decaying. So as long as you make anything that gives you any kind of mastery points, like in the morning and in the evening, it doesn't decay. And also, just because it starts decaying doesn't mean it like instantly goes all the way down. You typically want to have a little bit of a buffer in Meisters, so there's a little bit of a number for it to go down to before it even starts hurting you. 18 hours, I believe. So I sent you the link on like how to level up Meister, so you can have an easier time to get there. But
thank you.
Yeah, making the Meisters is definitely something. But usually wait until you can make at least like 2 or 3 of them, because even if you have the event rings that you already have, just making a 17-star Meister would be a large financial investment for not that much financial or not that much stat gain compared to your current situation, unless it allows you to get more like if you have not too many rings and it allows you to go for damage on that one and then drop a Mezzo or this one or the other one, whatever the potential gets dictates what function it will get, basically. Because if you get a Meister because you're like, oh, I want to get more damage, but it rolls like a line of Mezzo and 2 lines of Intellect or something, and it's a little bit less damage than the current one, well, now it just becomes a Mezzo line, because it's not like a huge loss there. So that way you can kind of let the RNG decide what functionality your stuff gets.
Okay. I have one question real quick, by the way. So there's a ring that I heard about. It's called Glona's Heart. Is that thing even worth going for? Because according to the wiki, it actually requires the like special coins to Star Force.
Yep.
and it requires the Golix coins. Well, to like if you like want
if you want to scale up,
to buy them to like to then eventually buy the ring. So it's like, is all that worth it just to get a Star Force ring, or
for most people
bother?
not? No, it's pretty niche. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the average amount of dailies and weeklies and stuff you need to do is to get like a guaranteed. It's I don't know. I think it's like somewhere up close to like 5 years of weeklies or something for like a guarantee or for like an RNG average. So yeah.
Okay.
Some people have it, but you know, if enough people do it, some people are going to get lucky, and then they'll have it, and then
Yeah.
If there's anything like really still specific where you're a little bit stuck, just hit me up on Discord. But there's got to be a good chance that some of the commands as well. So like definitely look at the flames one to get a good idea of like flame score and how much you're aiming for on that. And definitely check the Meister video, and then just always fall back to the progression grid, right? Like look for those numbers there, and if you don't know what those numbers mean, there's always a like information here. Usually it points towards a command where you can see a bit more info. And then if
I wish I knew how the flame calculator worked, but I'll just watch another progression video because I know you've done it like 100 times.
Well, the flame video also goes into it, and I even do like a mathematical example inside the video of like how we can calculate the number, and then that number basically you compare it to the number here in the grid, and then that will tell you whether it's a good idea or not.
Okay.
To work on it.
Awesome.
If that all doesn't make sense, just come back into the chat whenever, and we'll just get back into it. And I'll, take time to explain it then.
All right. One more thing before I go. What would you say that I should do for 5, 10, 15? Definitely get the Abso pieces up to 17, or maybe not, and just ask party members like, hey, are you guys cool with,
well, not like, are you cool with me being a weak fuck, but just like, how much damage do we have and do we need it at this point, right? So once you start doing the normal lucid runs and everything's okay, it's not like, haha, I'm getting carried, but it's like, we don't need the damage. So then you can save the money. Because if that helps you get to Arcane faster, and then you can start carrying your weight way faster in Hard Lucid once you get to that point, then it'll be a general good thing. It's not like you're kind of like cheating your team or something, or like, haha, we could have been like 6 seconds faster, but I saved some money. That doesn't matter to anyone. What matters is whether you can get to Hard Lucid faster, because you want to get the chance for those drops, right? That's what everyone is aiming for. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. No, I'm just kidding.
I saw you read the chat.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for all the help, dude.
Yeah, no worries. Good luck on everything. And yeah, just hit us up if there's anything you need to know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a nice time mapling.
Yes, you too. Good luck. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, cool. Let's not let the party waiting too much. Yeah. One more thing. There was actually a session that I had where the one more thing kept going for like 35 minutes. I'm bad at that. I'm so bad at saying no. I need to just like be like, last thing, and then we're fucking out. Okay. But if this session was informational for you, I am glad. I'm glad. And if it wasn't, then check out some of the other ones, and the other ones will definitely be informational for you. Hopefully you picked up 1, 2, or 3 things that you didn't know yet, or you had ended up putting context to something that you had heard before. If you would like to win one of these sessions, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section saying that you would like to win, so I know specifically who is up for it. And if you want to schedule one of these sessions with me and you don't want to wait until a whole month until I potentially draw your name, check the description and you'll see there how you can get one of these. If you need any of the resources, check out the Twitch chat, twitch.tv/Scardor. I stream there every day, noon to midnight UTC. I'm glad to see you there. Until then, or until the next video. Thanks for watching.